Well, it's your latest weekly Wolves update with Mr. Joe Edwards. Looks like you've had a change of scenery, Joe. Is this a bedroom you're in today?
It is the same bedroom. It's just a different. It's just a
Okay.
different position, just to help with the lighting and stuff like that. Actually, thinking a little bit. So there you go. Same bedroom, new position.
Mate, there's nothing wrong with a different position in the bedroom, mate. Happy days. Right, let's go on with some Wolves. Let's go on with some Wolves crack. Mr. John Ruddy, let's start with him. Of course, the contract situation was resolved yesterday. Signed a new 1-year deal. Also, a lot of other players. Some were kept. Some have been let go. Can you update us or give us a summary on what went down yesterday?
Yeah, so the retain list is out, and no real surprises coming or going really. But the good news and the standout news is that John Ruddy is staying for another year. The club had the option to extend his contract for another season, and they've taken up that option, and that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because you're looking at number two goalkeepers. I don't think you're going to find many better than John Ruddy in terms of his off-field. Leadership and experience, and then his on-field contributions as well. I know some people have pointing out some of the mistakes he may have made in the odd game here and there, but by and large he's been fantastic whenever he's been called upon. Of course, those 24 clean sheets in the Championship, and why go through the hassle of letting someone like Ruddy go when you get when if you were getting a keeper, and he'd ultimately be behind Patricio in the pecking order anyway. So keeping Ruddy on makes a lot of sense. A few youngsters staying on as well. Taylor Perry being the most well-known of those, and that you've got to say that's deserved. I mean, he's made a few first-team appearances this season. Whenever he's been included, he's looked all right. Good handy midfielder, decent energy. Can pick out a pass. Of course, a local lad as well who you want to see succeed. So good to see him sticking around. Cameron John sticking around. He's had a good season on loan at Doncaster. Sadhu Jallow has got some senior football under his belt at Accrington Stanley. And Jamie Pardington, a young keeper as well, signed from Rushall Olympic actually, non-league, a couple of years ago. So it's good to see, Wolves looking at that non-league pool and looking to pick up players from there. So they're sticking around. And just a few departures.
And so who are the big names who have gone then, or the biggish names? I know that there's a couple.
Yeah, so Jordan Graham is the biggest name, and he's the most notable exit. But you've got to say the writing has been on the wall for quite a long time now. It is a shame how things have played out for him, because remember when he first came into the side under Kenny Jackie, he was marvellous. Everything you wanted from a winger, really. Just ability to take on his marker, whip crosses into the box, he could score goals. He looked the real deal. Got that really nasty knee injury that kept him out for a year or more, and then since then there's been a succession of knocks and some unfruitful loan spells. I think Nuno wanted him to play as a wing back, and that was an experiment that never really took off. So it's his days were numbered, but now available on a free. I can't imagine that he'll be short of suitors, especially kind of League One level at least. Picking him up on a free is certainly worth a punt. Just quickly, Phil Fossaway's gone. I mean, for all we know, he could have been a world beater.
Big Phil.
We just never saw him play. And to be honest, we were on about Jordan Graham getting games somewhere in League One, perhaps. I mean, it'll be a triumph, to be honest, if Phil Fossaway gets a game anywhere, because he's not played any football for 3 years.
No, and it's almost unlike Wolves and Nuno. I guess they've done so well with a lot of the signings, and if they're not convinced with people, then they'll sign them on loan, and then they've got they'll see what they can do for a year, and you kind of know. Fossaway, it's almost like he was the one who slipped through the net once. He got a long-term deal, and they couldn't get rid of him in the end.
Weird signing. I mean, you look at him and you think of him being a signing of perhaps the Zenga era, that first Fowson year, but he actually joined in the same summer that Nuno joined. I mean, he had he had a questionable injury record before signing
Yes.
at Wolves, and I think a few pointed that out at the time, and perhaps were thinking, no, get off his back and all this kind of stuff. But those worries turned out to be true because he's just had a succession of knocks. I mean, and once you've had that many injuries, I think it's seen as perhaps a bit more of a risk than necessary to try and integrate them in. So he never really got a chance. But he's still only about 28, 29, so he could have a few years ahead of him, but he's just kind of disappeared into the ether, not at Wolves officially anymore. So maybe keep an eye out on him. But yeah, at this rate, it'd be a surprise to see him playing anywhere really.
Certainly would. So the players are back. They're back at Compton, and individual running and training has now become small group activities. Are they kicking a ball between themselves, Joe?
I think they are. What a
Wow!
what a world we live in.
Unbelievable!
Fantastic.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it?
They can pass to each other.
Astonishing.
The players can have shots at the goalkeepers. I mean,
No.
I don't know, it's mind-blowing stuff. But I know we're talking about it like this, taking the mickey a bit, but for those lads, it is going to be a big boost because they've been working separately for months. Working from home, doing stretches and all this kind of stuff, which obviously is necessary, but quite tiresome, I'd imagine, after a while. And then getting back to Compton, you say hello from afar and stuff like that, but they were working on separate pitches and just mainly doing running, having to bring a ball which they can kick around themselves but not kick to anybody else. But now, allowed in up to groups of 5, so no contact allowed still. But as you'd imagine, Nuno and the coaching team at Wolves are quite a creative bunch, so you'd imagine they'll be able to work on sort of patterns of play and stuff like that, done specific kind of sessions that are tailored around these restrictions that are in place. So, it's obviously a step up, a step in the right direction. We're still waiting for a date, of course, for the Premier League's return, but baby steps, I think we're heading in the right direction.
When you say like there's 5 or a maximum of 5 per group, and I assume that all clubs will adhere to those, to what's been sanctioned. However, what's stopping them saying, okay, we need extra players, let's pull someone in here, let's get 6, let's get 7, let's get 8? Is there any kind of rules or fines or anything, or kind of like scouts or spies watching them so they don't break this 5-a-side, or are they just asked to them to try and common sense, really?
Well, if anybody's kind of skirting those rules and breaking those rules, I think they'll be reprimanded, because there is, as you say, kind of people being sent out as spies if you want to kind of keep a watching eye over what's happening. Premier League can kind of request video footage just to make sure that everybody is abiding by those rules. So, I mean, they're taking every step necessary. I mean, it's all kind of safety protocols of the highest order, and clubs have got to adhere to it. I mean, just because they're training in groups now doesn't mean they can go in the clubhouse together or eat together or anything like that. They're still allocated a pitch, just meet on the pitch, say hello, but they can't have any contact or gather all in a crowded place and have food or have lunch or anything like that. They're travelling alone, still in their kit, to take that kit home and wash it. So a lot of those restrictions that were in place are still in place, but it's just a step in the right direction, a bit of a boost for the players.
And as for getting into full speed and full training and contact, which they will need to do for some weeks, you'd have thought, to get up to full speed for a game situation. You can't go from what they're doing now, for 2 or 3 weeks, then go into a game. Can you see them being game ready or match ready in a month's time, or is it going to take longer than that? Or does it just depend on when the restrictions are lifted and they can have some kind of contact?
Yeah, I think Richard Masters, the Premier League chief exec, was speaking yesterday and said this 12th of June restart date is not set in stone, and the Premier League are going to have to be flexible the way you're looking at it,
There's no way they start on June the 12th.
No, I think it's going to be the last weekend of June, probably something like that. If everything goes to plan, I think players need 4 to 6 weeks of proper training to get to that Premier League level, if you like, to make sure that these games are played at a pace and an intensity you would expect when the Premier League is back. So I think we're probably looking at late June, hopefully at home and away venues as well. I mean, there's a lot of talk about neutral venues, but it seems to be a growing feeling among the Premier League now that teams will be allowed to play home and away. So while Wolves won't have fans there, hopefully they'll be back at Molineux soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed, Joe. Thanks very much for the update. We'll speak to you next week. We'll, of course, have the podcast Thursday, Friday this week. And, keep us updated with all the latest expresstheStar.com. Cheers, Joe.